Shalom, shalom. This is Rabbi RabbiOtero with the Ways of Israel, and welcome this morning to another series of Sefer Haikkarim as we get started this morning. A beautiful morning indeed here in South Florida, and of course we're broadcasting throughout this medium of Facebook and also YouTube. And we do have various channels on which our message gets out. And I want to thank those of you who decided this week to make a contribution. May Hashem bless you and strengthen you. You can be part of the Ways of Israel simply by going to our group page here on Facebook and be part of the Ways of Israel. You can become a member of the Ways of Israel by simply downloading the application to become a member and also contribute at least $100 per year, and that's what the membership is, and be a full, complete member of the Ways of Israel. There's two ways to be a member. Either you're Jewish and you say, I'm a Jew, I want to be a member of the Ways of Israel, or I'm not Jewish and I want to be a sustaining or supporter of the Ways of Israel as a God-fearer, as a person who loves God and God's people, Israel. So you can do so very simply just by going down to the application side and downloading the application, and we'll send you out a identification card that identifies you as a member of the Ways of Israel. We want to thank those of you who have become Ways of Israel members, and may God continuously to bless you and strengthen you in everything that you do. Well, this morning we're going to head right into the study because, like obvious, we are getting into or close to the holiday of Shavuot, which is quickly upon us. Now Lag BaOmer will be coming down now on Monday and Tuesday. So please, there's a lot of activities throughout all the Jewish communities that they're having different fire lightings and also celebrations, simchas. So be part of the activities in different synagogues, no matter where you live, no matter where you're at. It will be an incredible blessing to you and your family. Let me just say a blessing for the coffee I want to drink while we're talking and learning. Baruch ta Adonai Elohim melech haolam shehakol nihiyah bidvaro. Baruch Hashem. And by the way, those of you who've asked me, Rabbi, when are you going to begin your yeshiva in English? We currently have one in Spanish, but we are getting prepared for the English yeshiva, where you can become an actual teacher, more or mora, or even receive smicha from this yeshiva, Israel-Darchei Israel. Thank God we have already created this program in Spanish, and it is current throughout all Latin America, and we're going to start doing it here in the United States for those of you who have desired to get and work towards a smicha. We have the program, we have the curriculum, we have everything ready to go, and even teachers that will be teaching different areas of the courses. So be part, and we'll send you what our cost is. It's very, very minimal. Not like when you go to some of these other yeshivats online that they usually charge about $5,000 just for the whole entire smicha course. It's going to be much cheaper than that. I guarantee you that. So if you're interested, just send me a line, send me an email. Rabbi, I want to be part of your yeshiva. What do I need to do to, subscribe or register? And I'll send you the information what you need to do, and also our curriculum. Wonderful. So let's get started with this morning as we continue the study of Rabbi Joseph's Albo incredible work called Sefer Haikkarim, the book of fundamentals, as it were, or foundations. In chapter 2 of the third book, we're now in the third book, there's one more book to go, but in the third book we begin to read and share Rabbi Albo's teachings. And he says, every natural existent has in its specific form a certain property and purpose which distinguishes from other species. The purpose with which exists in every species is the same cause which determines its existence at specific form. Man is also a natural existent, being the noblest and the most perfect of them, as we have explained. He must therefore also have a proper purpose which is related to his specific form. Cannot reside in the faculties of nutrition and sensation, for in that case the perfection and purpose of of the ass and of the pig would have the same as that of a man. So it's clear, therefore, that perfection of man must consist in something which he has over and above the other animals. Now, when it refers to perfection, it doesn't mean that he's perfect. It means to be complete, to be fulfilled. Now we see that man has a potentiality of capacity in apprehending concepts, discovering science, and bringing them from potentiality to actuality more than all the other animals. Therefore, human perfection must depend upon intellectual power, and thus the power being divided into theoretical and practical. Human perfection must depend upon theoretical part rather than the practical, for the former bears closest relations to man's nature. So we cannot say that the purpose of human intellect is exclusively practical, to enable man to invent arts and trades, for it is made clear that in the treatise on animals composed by the Brethren of Purity, that as a general rule the lower animals are more adept in practical skills than man. Moreover, if this were the case, then the purpose is more important than that which comes before the purpose. The practical arts would be more notable than the speculative, and those speculative arts which lead us to no practical results would be vain, of no value whatsoever. But this is contradicted by our nature and universal opinions. For all agree that theoretical arts are superior to the practical. Again, the joy we feel in that everything relates to the purpose, to that which is near to the purpose, more so than that which is far from it. But we find that the satisfaction and joy derived from the little theoretical knowledge are infinitely greater than all the satisfaction derived from practice. This proves the real purpose of a man depends upon the theoretical part over the intellectual power. That is why we find that man is stronger desire for the sensible of sight and hearing than of those of smell and taste. Nature has put in us a strong desire for the former, because we are more adept through that which acquire theoretical knowledge, upon which human perfection depends. Other sensibilities, in the other hand, bears a closer relationship to the corporeal sensations and desires, which are far away from the specific perfection of man, that them alone for maintenance of his body, like the other animals. Now in every existence has a greater desire for that which has a bearing on specific form and proper purpose. He also has a strong desire for the power of instrument, which leads to the purpose. Therefore, man has a greater desire for these sensibilias than others, because they play a great part in leading man to his purpose than others. And this is the reason why the Bible, yes, the Bible, ascribes to God's formation of two senses rather than just others. Solomon says, "The hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord hath made even both of them." And since instruction which is imparted by a teacher is more permanent than that which is not acquired, the author of Proverbs explained it in another verse that hearing is superior than to sight. The ear that hearkeneth to the reproof of life abideth among the wise. It's an allusion to the superiority of the two senses over the others, because they are instrumental in man's acquisition of perfection. Solomon says in the Songs of Solomon, or in the Songs of Songs, "O my dove, that art in the cleft of the rock, in the covert of the cliff, let me see thy countenance. Let me hear thy voice, for sweet is thy voice, and thy countenance is comely." In the poetic figure, he speaks of his own soul, which he pictures as a dove, and speaks of her as being in the cliff of the rock, in the coverts of the cliff, alluding to the fact that the soul is hidden in the body and its seat not being known. The word countenance in the above passage is expressed in the Hebrew by the plural to indicate two things: the letter in the book and the sensibilia, and both of which are necessary means of acquiring knowledge, and both of them are comely. As he says, "Let me hear thy voice," meaning to say that though the voice of the dove is not sweet, the voice of one is sweet, meaning the voice through which the soul learns concepts from the teacher. That voice, he says, is very sweet. And therefore he says, "Let me hear thy voice, that which thou hast received from thy teacher, and thy voice is sweet, and thy countenance is comely." For through these two senses man's capacities are realized in acts, and he attains his perfection if he uses them properly. But if he directs them to world vanities, he is as though he were deaf and blind. And thus the prophet calls those who occupy themselves in the vanities of the world deaf and blind. Hear ye deaf, and look ye blind, that ye may see. The reason this is because they do not employ the senses properly. They actualize their potential perfection, which is only by the way which man can realize his purpose. In explanation of this, we must say that there are two kinds of perfection, a first and a last. The first is the perfection, which is a thing that has as soon as it comes into existence, and the perfection of existence. The other is a perfection which a thing has not only solely by existing, it is also potential in existing things, which attains the perfection which is in potentiality, are actualized. This is called perfection of purpose. This is the perfection that is intended for man. Take a chair, for example. In the first perfection, it's attained as soon as it comes into existence, as soon as the manufacture is completed. The last perfection of the chair is the perfection of purpose. It's not attained until it is sat on. So here we find the ultimate perfection when it's completed in its use. In the lower animals, the animal perfection that is expected of them is perfection of existence. Hence, it's speaking of their formation. The Bible says, and God saw that it was good, to indicate that as soon as they came into existence, or come into existence, the good of which they are capable is attained and completed. No other good is expected of them. But in the account of the formation of man, there is no statement that it is good, which seems kind of strange, for it would seem that the formation of man should be characterized as good, just like the formation of animals. The reason for this omission is in order to indicate that the good that is intended in the creation of man is not the perfection of existence merely, as in the other animals, but of a nobler perfection, which can be attained only when he is actualized his potentialities, but as long as his intellect does not actualize his potentialities. The perfection intended, namely the perfection of purpose, is not attained. The meaning of Solomon's statement, a good name is better than precious oil, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. Let me repeat that again. This is what exactly is the meaning of Shlomo HaMelech, Solomon's statements. A good name is better than precious oil, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. The meaning is that a good name acquired by good qualities is better than good oil, for a good name is heard much farther away than extended the odor of good oil. But a good name is not essential to the ultimate good of the soul, and therefore the day of death, when a man has attained a complete knowledge, is better than that day of his birth, where he's just beginning, he's starting up. For on that day of his death he has already actualized the potentiality of his intellect, which is not the case of the day of his birth. For then the perfection of the soul has only the potential existence, though the perfection of the body is actual. The difference between man and animal in its purpose of their creation is alluded to also in the variation expressions. This is in the account of the formation of animals. We find the expression after its kind, after their kind, and God made the beasts of the earth after its kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything after that creepeth upon the ground after its kind, to indicate that in animals there is no difference between the purpose of one species and that of another, nor is there a difference between the creation of the male and of the female. There is in one general purpose, including them all, and that is the perpetuation of species, which is the perfection of existence. This is the same for all species, and for male and female. And yes, there is a male and there is a female. Unfortunately, we have to say this in today's society and culture of complete ignorance of truth. For the male has no superiority in this matter than over the female. But in the case of a man, since the purpose of his creation is not merely the perpetuation of his species, but also the perpetuation of the individual, the expression after his kind is not mentioned. But the female was not created at the same time as male, to indicate the great difference between the two kinds of creation, man and animal. The purpose in the latter is the perpetuation of the species, wherein the male-female are equal. And the purpose of the former is the perpetuation of individual, in which the female is not equal to the male, but was created to help him that he might attain the intended perfection, which was the potentially at all time of creation and must be brought into actuality. In other words, it is the female that helps the male, and both complement the true ultimate perfection. As this perfection is in man potentially, the potential existence stands midway, as it were, between the existence and non-existence. The Bible calls it nothing. Thus Solomon says, the preeminence of man above the beast is nothing. It's all that vanity. The meaning is that the preeminence of man above beast is something whose existence is weak. If the passage read, there is no preeminence of man over beast, it would have the meaning of pure negative proposition. But he says the preeminence of man above the beast is nothing. The judgment is affirmative, the equivalent to the statement that man has preeminence over the beast, but this preeminence is nothing, something whose existence is weak because it were mere potentiality. The student of logic will understand that this judgment has the value of an affirmative proposition rather than a negative. In reference to this power, Job said, but wisdom shall arise from nothing. Wisdom shall arise from nothing? The meaning is that wisdom comes from a potentiality residing in man, which is called ayin, nothing. Man's final perfection is attained when it becomes actual, not before. In a man in which this power can attain wisdom is by answering the question, what is it? Mazeh. What is it? What is this? As defining thing. Hence he says in the sequel that what is a place of understanding. Interesting that Rabbi Albo gets into this idea of wisdom and the purpose of man, because we have just recently learned that many are involved in what they call artificial intelligence. Man creating an intelligence like himself. It is as if man has created a new intelligence in his image. And my friends, I want you to please listen very closely to what I'm saying. This is nothing new for the Torah and Torah concepts. The time has arrived in which man is creating an intelligence that will completely boggle his own mind. They call it artificial intelligence. I'm going to talk to you very briefly about this. Because artificial intelligence, as Elon Musk has mentioned many times, could play a positive role as well as a very negative and dark side. Just like we have two sides, good and evil, the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, so this artificial intelligence has the capacity to commit a lot of mistakes and a lot of logical fallacies. And this is what has placed many people into the scare mode. As a matter of fact, a lot of people have walked out of Google because of this, because they don't want to get involved. Let me just say two things here real briefly. Those of you who are involved and know a little bit of the apocalyptic literatures, both Jewish and non-Jewish literature, will come to understand that in the apocalyptical literature or eschatological literatures, there is the notion of an incredible image being built by mankind whose image is the number of man. People call him the beast, they call him the antichrist, whatever you want to call it. But it's interesting that in Sefer HaZerubbabel, it mentions the same parallel concepts as you'll find in the book of Apocalypse or Revelation in the Christian literature. And it talks about the creation of this image that will have the whole entire world subservient to it. Elon Musk's conversation about AI and his conversation about that fits perfectly in with this characteristic that you'll find in the eschatological literatures, both Jewish and non-Jewish literatures, which actually even that book, which Christians call the Book of Revelation, really has a lot of Jewish motifs and Jewish symbolisms, which is echoed also again in the book of Sefer Zerubbabel, where an image is created and actually is able to talk by its own intelligence. Think about that, for example. Something that we have never seen before is being created before our very own eyes, and that which can even mimic human beings would be better than the response of a human being. This is why the rabbis, several rabbis, and I posted this literature up, have completely prohibited utilizing these tools of AI, because the powerful instrument that's used, that can be able to be destructive or constructive. And therefore, because it's not completely science and perfection, they have warned the general public not to utilize it. I have not made my decision whether it should or should not be used, but watch out. If it's created by man, and man has the ability to be fallible, be able to fail and make mistakes, this intelligence will have a logical fallacy built in it without even those who create it understand it. So it can be used for a great evil, and according to all the apocalyptical literatures, that's the way it's going to be used for. Not for the benefit of mankind, but for the detriment of mankind on a whole global level. And we're seeing this taking place with such entities as the World Economic Forum, such entities as the New World Order, all of these globalists that wish to take control of mankind and bring them to subjection. They're the ones that are employing these type of technologies, and lo and behold, this technology is not perfected, nor its perfection. And this is why they're utilizing the human brain. Another step in this whole entire process is try to scan human memory, and Elon Musk is involved in this. Human memory and human thought, to be able to integrate it on a computerized level with artificial intelligence. So you know what we're talking about is something unfathomable, never seen before, even in scientific worlds. And now we're seeing it come forth. And the positive of good as well as evil is already present. This morning in the news, they reported how a person utilized the voice of another individual to mimic the voice of a very wealthy man's son, to mimic, "Dad, I need money because if not, they're going to kill me." Imagine that. And the voice was exactly the same. My friends, we're living in a very dangerous time. We're living in a very dangerous time that you can't tell reality from reality, or a virtual reality. This is Rabbi RabbiOtero. Remember, be part of the Ways of Israel. Join our group. Be part of what's really exploding throughout the world, which is Torah, Torah truth, Torah teaching. Shalom, shalom, and have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. We'll see you a little bit later in Spanish as we continue also with the laws of the Sefer Torah. Shalom, shalom.